is Zofia Zayas. I'm a student here at Herzing University. This assignment is my mock decontamination of instruments from my kitchen for my sterile processing class. So right now I'm going to explain what I have on and why I have it on. So this is my PPE for the decontam department of the sterile processing department. So starting from the top, I have my hair head covering. I have my mask with the built-in face shield. I also have safety goggles, but these are my eye protection. And then I don't have scrubs, but I have on a long sleeve shirt and top. I also have my fluid resistant apron, and then my gloves that I wear when I'm washing the instruments. And I also have my shoe coverings and my boots. So I wear the head covering and the face covering, obviously, because instruments harbor many pathogens, bacteria, microorganisms from surgery that could potentially harm us. So it's very important that when we are coming in contact with or cleaning the instruments that are coming out of surgery, that we're protecting ourselves, especially our eyes, nose, mouth, because that's where viruses and bacteria love to just go and grow and stay and can possibly infect us. So that's why I'm wearing this. So this covers part of my chin and my neck up to my nose, and then the face shield obviously covers my eyes. The hair covering makes sure that also none of my hair falls into or scalp particles or skin particles fall into any kind of sterile objects or pans, but also keeps my head covered. So then the fluid resistant apron obviously is for splashing of water or detergents, chemicals, or any kind of blood or tissue or body materials that we come in contact with. These are my gloves. They're not just any kind of nitrile glove, they are like dishwashing gloves. These are good for the hot water and detergents. They're thicker, they are waterproof, so that we're not harming our skin or our fingers or anything like that while we are washing or cleaning instruments. They're also another layer of protection from any kinds of sharps or pointy objects that we're cleaning. Obviously, I think I said the apron is fluid resistant, so we won't become soiled with any kind of contaminants or liquids. The shoe coverings are obviously there because we're walking around in a very dirty area, so we could pick up hundreds of bacteria or pathogens or any kind of contaminant or fluid from walking around, or even if we splash something down to our feet, they won't contaminate our shoes. Obviously, our shoes will not leave the department, but this is another way to make sure that if you're moving around within the hospital or the surgical facility, that you're not tracking around blood or any kind of biological or biohazard material. So I think that pretty much covers my PPE, and so now I will get into the decontamination process of surgical instruments. So here is my sink. Ideally I would have a 3-sink arrangement, but I will just demonstrate the process of the first sink, which is the wash sink. Here are my cleaning supplies for today. I have 2 different kinds of brushes. This one is for scrubbing the surfaces to get rid of any soil, and this one obviously is for inserting into any kind of tubes or suction tips to brush the insides of those instruments. I have filled my sink to the appropriate water level according to the manufacturer's instructions for my cleaning solution. This makes sure that you are diluting any type of cleaner or detergent properly. The water in the sink is deionized water. That just means that it has been rid of all ions, which basically removes any microorganisms or other contaminants in the water. My water temperature should be between 80 and 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Any higher water temperatures than this will coagulate proteins and make them harder to remove from the instruments. So following the manufacturer's IFU for these instruments, I've added an enzymatic cleaner into my water. So according to the enzymatic cleaner's instructions for use, IFU, the instruments should be taken apart, opened, and submerged and soaked for 3 minutes. So here is my pan of dirty instruments. Here I have a Yonker suction tip, some Mayo scissors, tissue forceps with teeth, and then a mosquito clamp. So here I will just be making sure they're all taken apart if they have multiple parts. It's best to put the biggest instruments down first. These are all pretty much the same size, but my sink is big enough that they can be kind of separated. So for this one especially, since it has an opening, I'm gonna place it in here, make sure it's submerged all the way and fills with water. Forceps I'm gonna place in here, and then here are my mosquito clamps. I'm gonna make sure their box lock is opened all the way, no ratchets are attached. I'm gonna place it down here. And then for my mayo scissors, I'm gonna make sure the box lock is opened all the way, and I'm going to place them in the sink. So like I said, per this enzymatic cleaners IFU, they need to soak for 3 minutes, especially because they're heavily soiled. For instance, obviously these instruments have not been pre-cleaned at the point of use or wiped down or anything, so soaking in the enzymatic cleaner will help it break down and so they can be scrubbed easier. Now that my instruments have been soaked in the cleaner for 3 minutes, I'm going to proceed with manual cleaning. So first I will take my brush here. I'm just going to start. We'll start with the mayo scissors. As you can see, some of the soils are already starting to come off. Here I'm using my brush to remove any visible soil. Notice how I'm brushing under the water. This will prevent aerosolization, which is like any splashing or spreading of any contaminants from the instruments. Here you can see I'm periodically bringing them out of the water to inspect to see if there's any more soil that needs to be scrubbed off on that side or in general. So here I'm going to flip it over, continue to scrub. See how when I just closed it a little bit, you can see that there's some soil stuck in the box lock. So by opening them and moving them around and opening those box locks, you can see any more soil. So this one looks pretty good. Now onto my clamp. This one is very heavily soiled. Again, brushing carefully under the water to make sure I'm not splashing. Bringing up, inspecting. Close it a little bit. Brush a little more. I'm gonna brush the handles too because I saw some debris on there earlier. That one looks pretty good. See, this one has all of the ridges or teeth. So you want to make sure that you get in those to get any chunks off that you may not be able to see. There's some over there. Next, my forceps. Pretty soiled once again. Brush under the water. And all surfaces. Especially because they have these teeth. You want to make sure that you get in between those teeth. Handle. Any tight crevice too, like the base of it. You may not think to scrub those as well, but inside there could be any kind of soil. So scrubbing those are good. And then next with my suction tip, looks like a lot of the debris that was inside the tube came out, but we're still gonna brush the outside surface first. And then I'm going to use my brush cleaner and insert it into the tube. Make sure we're cleaning inside of any holes or openings. As you can see, this brush is a pretty good fit for this suction tip because once it goes in, the surfaces will be met by all the bristles. So if it were a really tiny skinny brush and it went in and didn't touch all of the walls, it wouldn't be cleaning it properly. So that one looks pretty good. So also you should be continuously inspecting your instruments for proper use throughout the sterilization process. But once the instruments are no longer visibly soiled, then my next step would be the intermediate rinse. And this is done with utility water, just water to help rinse off any debris, obviously if I had the second sink. And then the third step would be the final rinse, which includes a critical water, which helps prevent spotting on the instruments when they're drying. But then after this manual cleaning step, the instruments would either be placed in a submersible basket, which would go through an ultrasonic cleaner, or they would be placed on the rack to go through the mechanical washer, depending on the instruments. Instructions for use, IFU. But after all the instruments have been manually and or mechanically cleaned, the next step would be inspecting them, packing and assembling the kits. Once the kits are marked, they are wrapped and sterilized, and then they're put in sterile storage for future use. So